Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all once again. My name is Pedro Romero, and I have with you another interview. This time, we're sticking with League of Legends, but we're heading out into another region. As for what that region is, it is none other than Japan. It is home to the LJL, and one of its teams is the SoftBank Hawks Gaming team. And who I have here next to me is none other than the support, Ian Corporal Pearse. He took the time of his day to talk to me for this interview. Ian, it's so glad for you to join me. How are you doing at this day?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very pleased to be here. And yeah, my day's going good and yeah, everything's just good. I'm feeling pretty pumped.
Feeling pretty pumped indeed. I mean, we talked about like this yesterday that this was your first interview in English. I mean, you've already talked in interviews in Japanese, but this is your first time doing an English interview. So, I mean, well, what are your thoughts about that?
It's definitely strange because obviously English is my first language, so am able to more I'm able to articulate my thoughts better in terms of an English interview. So I'm just excited to have the chance to more clearly say what I want to say. Yeah.
And with regards to the season of the LJO so far, you guys are in a break, and so you've already participated last week in your set of games, but you're going to, but as all the other teams are doing, so they have a break, and so for this week long break, what is the team focusing on regarding like um coordination, team play, stuff of that nature? If you're able to reveal it as such.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk too much about the cliches because obviously I could just say we're working on like teamwork or like getting better, which is kind of I guess obvious in a sense. But I mean taking the time for an extra week-long break is really good because well the reason for the break is that in 2 weeks or a week from now anyway, we have the Super Week. So I guess it's kind of just the same old, but we have like more chance to refine our strategy because we have one more week of scrims, so we can try like different picks. And I think the meta may slightly change within the LJL, given this 2 week break, because players are more likely to try out different picks in their scrims. So I'm excited to see how that turns out for the LJL meta.
And in that LJL, you guys are sixth place with a 4-4 record, and you've mentioned the Super Week. Can you chime in on what exactly that Super Week is for those unfamiliar with the LJL?
Well, the Super Week is just 2 weeks worth of games within 2 days, or like one weekend, I guess you could just put it as. So yeah, we have 4 stage games in there, and the regular season is going to be coming to a close within 3 weeks, and 2 of those weeks is next week. So this will be really important for placing and in terms of closing out and solidifying who's in playoffs and who isn't. So I mean, we are in sixth place right now, but I think it kind of doesn't show the full story because even though we're in sixth place, the top of the ladder is actually really clumped together right now. And I think number one is like 6-2 Rascal Jess, and then there's 4 teams, 5-3, and then we're 4-4. So we still have a chance to get first place. So I'm hopeful that we can win all our games and secure the top spot or the top 2 spots for playoff seeding.
And of course, I mean, I'll be remiss if I don't mention that previous week in which you defeated none other than DFM, the reigning LJO champions, and V3, the champions from last year in summer 2020. And so, I mean, I'd like to know what was that week like to defeat two of the best LJL teams around?
Oh, sorry, just a little clarification. It wasn't actually DFM, it was Sengoku Gaming.
Same
But
go.
I mean, V3 is still at the top, so it still definitely felt really good. And I think this is our first tour of the year, so yeah, I mean, it feels sweeter than a normal tour, I would say. And I mean, obviously, it comes with relief as well because we were kind of in a not good position before that when we were 2-4 and we potentially could not even make playoffs at that point. And now there's still a chance we don't, but it's very, very unlikely. So I guess relief is the best word I can use to summarize how I feel about it.
So it's like you guys weren't like were you weren't expecting for that week to go around to go 2-0?
Oh no, I was very confident in our team. I think we can potentially win it all, and I think that we have very high potential, and all our players are very good. So, I mean, I personally expect tour like most weeks. Um, I think the way that our team is structured and our players have the potential to go to the top, as I just mentioned before. So, I mean, I guess it's the first time I can finally start to feel like everything's coming together and all the pieces are coming together like that. Yeah.
And with those pieces coming together, you will then look for playoffs and potentially a spot for Worlds. And so, relative to that, what were your expectations with the team heading into that summer split? Were you thinking were you thinking way ahead into that sort of area back then, or was it different compared to now?
Well, a lesson I've had to learn this year is never to really look far ahead and take each day as it is, because obviously in spring we had a pretty disappointing performance, ending 6th in regular season and getting knocked out in the first playoff bracket. So I can't really say that I'm just looking for I'm looking for Worlds and past that, because obviously we have to get there first. So I'm not really sure what I can say as our expectations are, but all I can say is that we can just take every day as it comes, and I think we have what it takes to defeat every other team, especially in a playoffs format of a best of 5. So all I say is I'm pretty confident that we can win it all.
I get that confidence indeed. I mean, every team, every player should have that when they're in such a competitive league, such as the LJL. Even though one or two teams have dominated throughout its history, but like I said, it's very nice to have players such as yourself still believe that you guys can contend for that title. And so I want to look back into the middle of the season of this season, more specifically MSI, in which LJL's representative DFM put up a good showing against the reigning world champions in Dan Kia and the LCS champions on Cloud9. And so, for you, as a member, as one of the players representing the LJL, what were your thoughts on, first of all, um, DFM's participation in MSI and also the tournament as a whole?
Well, considering the group that DFM had, I think they really did Japan proud. Like, especially as a player of the LJL, I feel very happy with how DFM performed, even though it was regrettable that they didn't go through, obviously. But I think for the group that they were put in, they showed that LJL has what it takes to compete with the other best regions in the world. And I think that's one of the best things you can show at an international level. So yeah, I'm proud of what DFM did, and I think they should be proud of themselves too. In regards to the tournament as a whole, I would say I don't really have many specific thoughts about it because I mainly just watched Japan in their group plus finals, um, plus a little bit of the Oceania games as well. So other than that, I would just say it was a tournament that went as expected, although the games weren't played out as were expected. But the results, yeah, kind of showed the way that someone who would predict pre-tournament would predict it.
I spoke to the head coach of DFM Yang in at the final after his team played played their final set of games in the group stage, and he explained that, or he said that his team's playstyle, which is from the LJL, can compete in the international stage. Do you think that that notion is true from Yang?
Yeah, I definitely believe that that is the case now. As if we saw the results speak for themselves on the stage, and the way that DFM played, even with their coach playing as support for that split, they showed like really good results. So, yeah, definitely that playstyle will work, and they even added in Gang to their roster now for summer. So yeah, if they just maintain the same playstyle, I think no matter who represents Worlds, no matter who represents LJ at World, I think we're gonna have a really strong showing. And yeah, I agree that the playstyle works on the international level.
Hoping that that representative becomes the SoftBank Hawks, right?
Yeah, of course. We'll get through DFM and we'll represent. And I know that if we have to go through DFM for that, then we're gonna have a really good fighting chance at Worlds.
Yes, of course, of course. And also, one of the other teams besides DFM that made some considerable noise in MSI is obviously, you mentioned it before, Pentanet G of Oceania. They've, as everyone knows, they've progressed to the group stage or they progressed from the first stage of an international competition for the first time in Oceanic history. And so, in your case, Ian, you've had some ties with a number of members with that squad, and so considering that aspect, what do you make of Pentanet's performance in that competition as well?
I mean, considering the state of OS and that they lost their region as a Riot affiliated region, obviously their showing was very impressive. And as for the members that I know, Biopanther, Chaz, and their coach Udisoft, like all performed exceptionally, I feel like, at the tournament. And yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else to say except like I'm really proud of everyone who was there, and they definitely played their hearts out, and they offset the Unicorns of Love, I believe.
Yes.
So I think they had the best showing that they could have hoped for, and yeah, they should be proud of themselves, and I'm proud of them too.
Well, as you mentioned, you were teammates with Chaz during your own time in Oceania back in 2018 and 2019. You were teammates with him in Mprox. Is that the name of? Is that the correct name of the team?
Yes, that is the name of it.
Yeah, and then you were with Udisoft and Biopanther with Dire Wolves in 2019, and even one of your coaches, Rays, was in the OPL with you as well when you were there.
Yes.
And so did you see a resemblance in how they played in MSI compared to what you've seen as a teammate all those years ago?
No, unfortunately, I think our debut split did not go the way we intended it to go, and we had pretty bad results, just speaking honestly. So honestly, I think everyone that I've played with since then has grown exceptionally, and I think I have as well. So I think everyone has just changed the way they play from the time that we played back in 2018, 2019. So yeah, I don't really see any resemblance. I think everyone just made the changes that they needed to make for themselves to become top players. So yeah.
Going a bit even further, Yang, the coach of DFM, was also worked with you once you moved from Oceania to Japan with Axis. Am I right?
Yes, yes, that is true.
It's the same question. Did you did you see a resemblance in Yang's coaching tactics from when he coached you in Axis?
Yeah, I do actually, because he well, it was pretty recent that he coached me, which was last year in Axes. So I can see the similarities that he brought from the team that I played on onto DFM this year at MSI, and he had like a very macro heavy focus, and like I could see the map movements that DFM were doing was something that he was very that he tried very hard for us to do in 2020 as well. So yeah, I definitely see the style coming through, and I think that's what helped DFM get a lot of success as well. Because I think Young Coach is a great coach, and I mean he just showed it with the results. So
Were you able to come into contact with any of those people that I mentioned before during the tournament? Like just for like some kind of banter or just playing around, stuff like that?
yeah, well I keep up to date with them through messages. Obviously because of coronavirus, it was hard to it was hard to like go through and meet them in person, obviously, but like through like Discord messages and stuff like that, I was just talking with like for example, Pentanet's mid laner. He was just showing me screenshots that he had of like funny banter that he found, or just talking with Pentanet's coach as well, because yeah, I'm just friends with them and I keep up to date with them anyway. And I was just telling them, well, they were just talking in general about their experiences at the tournament, and yeah, but like not really anything too interesting in terms of gameplay, I would say. More just messing around as friends.
Nice, nice. And so, um, well, as we pointed out earlier, you came to know him from playing in Oceania and what was once the OPL. And so, since you were born in Japan with ties to Australia, you started there and then moved over to Australia to start your career in League of Legends. And so I'm wondering how exactly did you start your career in League of Legends?
Well, I did grow up in Australia, so I mean I was born in Japan, and then I did grow up within Australia, so obviously the natural progression for me was to join an Australian team because I didn't really have connections in Japan at that point. So one of my friends was making an OCS team, which is a second league team in there. And then from that, we played in 2018 as a team. That was the year I had Chaz as my mid laner. And then the next year, I got a pretty lucky break. One of the Dials coaches noticed me and, well, basically asked me to join that team. So obviously, it was one of the best opportunities I could get. So I said yes, of course. And I went through. And since, well, the first split was not that good, but in the second split, I met Raze, who really, really, really helped me like skyrocket my progress as a player, and really helped me flourish in terms of gameplay. So because of that, I felt like even though I'd become a better player, my reputation wasn't really that great within Australia anyway because of my debut split that was not very good. So when I had the chance to go to Japan, I took it because I knew that this could be a new start for me. I could reinvent myself and the way I play, the way I could be perceived by other people. So for sure, I am very grateful to be playing in Japan, and I'm so glad because all the fans in Japan are really great too, and they very welcoming to me. And I mean, it just gave me a new chance at my career. And sorry, I forgot the main question I had. What was the main question?
It was just basically how did you start your career in League of Legends?
Oh yeah, and then in 2020 I had a pretty good year with Axes, and then that brings me to today within SoftBank Hawks Gaming. So that was pretty much the timeline of my time as a pro, and I think it's in approaching my third year now. Like I think I'm currently in my third year as a pro right now.
Yeah,
So
yeah, third year so far. Um, yeah, like you mentioned so many times before that you've not had a very good first split. in your career, but I'd like to look at it from another aspect. Um, what was some of the brightest moments, if you can find any, like from that first split, from your debut split, if you can remember some, like it can be an experience or a particular moment within the game, or or similar of stuff of that nature.
I think, well, one of the brightest moments was me was when I first joined the team and the coach was showing me like the high level plays that pro players use in team games. And I think that's when I really cemented my love for competitive League of Legends because I saw the way that the game was being played at a higher level, and I didn't even understand how these things were going through at that point. And then when they were showed to me, yeah, I just really fell in love with League of Legends again, and I think I knew at that point I'd made the right choice to pursue League of Legends as a career because yeah, that from that moment it just showed me that I really love this game and I love playing it competitively.
I didn't actually ask this, but when did you start playing League of Legends, like overall?
I'm pretty sure my friend introduced me to League of Legends at the very end of season 4, probably around the time Worlds was happening. Because I remember that was the first tournament I ever watched. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's when I started. I don't know what champion was released back then, but all I know is it was on the old Summoner's Rift.
That was the one where Samsung White came out as the winners, right? Samsung White.
Sorry? Oh, Samsung White, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What was the first match you saw of that World Championship that you can remember? Like the very first match.
I don't know, but I saw old Tristana, and I really liked Tristana at that point, so that's why I became an ADC main at the beginning. I only swapped from ADC to support around the time I started, around 2018 actually, when I first started playing competitively. My friend was an ADC main and he asked me to join his team, so I swapped to support and started playing with him. Um, so yeah, that's how I'm support. But I initially really loved Tristana because I saw Tristana in one of the first games I ever watched. I'm pretty sure it was like Samsung Blue was in that game, but I don't know who the enemy was.
Okay. Okay, so you were doing your best to make Tristana support a thing, right?
Yeah, I'll do my best to make sure she comes back into meta, I guess. Or I'll be the one who invents the Tristana support meta, I guess.
So it was just all your time with League of Legends you played support and you just stuck there, right?
Oh no, I only played support when I started competitively.
Okay. Okay, so you were ADC and then moved to support once you.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And so from moving to Oceania, you and from starting in Oceania, you moved on to Japan in the LJL. And so, I mean, you've already explained why you moved to the LJL. And so, I like to know, like, um, what was the transition like for you to move from, as you said, a place that you've grown up in to a new country, which, although it is literally your home, it's another basically another world for you to to navigate.
Yeah, so I guess honestly it wasn't as hard as I expected it to be because when I came here it was just to play League of Legends. Plus I'd already been learning Japanese in my high school and my mom is Japanese, so she had been teaching me for a while, so it wasn't really that much of a culture shock at all because I I'd known a lot about Japanese culture since my mom had taught me a lot about it, and about the language in general, I still knew about it. So I guess more so than other people, I had an easier time adjusting. But other than that, in terms of League of Legends, I would say the way the Oceanic region and the Japanese pro region are different was like quite a shock to me. And because in OS, I'm pretty sure, well, in my experience anyway, it was more about teamwork and less about like individual skill outshining other players and more like creating team advantages. But in Japan, like a lot of the rosters are very highly influenced by which positions have imports in them. So, for example, you could even categorize teams just by like which roles do they have imports in, and then that kind of shows you that shows you the identity of the team. So yeah, once again, like LJL was a highly import focused league. I feel like, and then because of that, it came down more to individual skill instead of teamwork. But obviously, the teamwork's still good here. But it was just more so emphasized in Australia or the Oceanic region.
Yeah, and as you said, it the LGL has brought in some imports, the majority of which has been Koreans, since Korea is revered as one of the top regions in the game. But in your case, you were brought in as an import technically from Australia. And so, can you remember what was the reaction like from the fans when they realized that the player that Axis brought in was someone not from, say, Korea or a similar region, but Oceania?
Well, I don't completely know what the reaction was, but from what I've heard from the manager when I was at Axis was like there's quite a lot of shock, obviously, because I don't think many people expected that. Plus, confusion, I guess, because the way since I was in fact born in Japan and I am a Japanese citizen, then I am not an import in the LJL, and so I guess many people were shocked about that. But other than that, I don't really know what else the reactions were. I think the Japanese fans are really great, and I don't think anyone was saying anything negative. So yeah, I'm pretty sure like all the reactions were quite positive, and I was really glad for it.
But nevertheless, there must have been moments in which people would see you on the live stream of the audio, and they like think like who's this guy? Like, is he from Japan? Like, did you ever get those instances, or have you ever gotten those instances before?
I don't think I've had that, although I would like to. Although I don't really. I hope that doesn't happen that much because I still consider myself very Japanese. So yeah, I would just like to be seen as a Japanese person, much like the other people. And yeah, I just hope that that isn't something that is thought of too often.
Mhm. And you've already touched upon the comparison in play between the OPL and the LJL in your time in both leagues. And so I'd like to know specifically in the support standpoint, what qualities did or what difference can you talk about regarding um, playing in the support role in both leagues?
Sure. Once again, in Japan, there were like a few Korean import supports, so their level was something I never really experienced before in Australia, where I would say the average tier of play would be slightly lower. However, once I got used to it, it was pretty similar in my opinion. I just think, yeah, apart from the teams, no, I would say it was pretty similar overall, honestly. Like apart from the few that were just like the next level, that I played against, I don't really see too many differences.
Moving on from that aspect, um, I know that there is scrutiny regarding the state of the Japanese server, and I mean, since you're playing Japan, you must know how the Japanese server is like over there, and so you heard of a video from. Have you heard of a series called League of Documentary?
I'm pretty sure that's from GB 99, right?
It's a similar thing of that. It's similar to G-based content, but in one of that person's videos, he talked in length about the state of the Japanese server, and so in that video, he said that um, that LJL teams practice not in the Japanese server, but in the Korean server. And so I'd like to know if you can reveal, if you can talk about it. Is that true?
I mean, of course, when I'm pretty sure LoL is not as popular as other forms of entertainment in Japan, such as like mobile games. So naturally, the population of the server is decreased, and so like queue times are longer, and overall, when you have less population of the server, the overall quality decreases. So it's yeah, it's not as good practice, although you can still become good on that server, I believe. Um, but yeah, since Japan and Korea are very geographically close to each other, then you can play on the Korean server from Japan without too many issues.
Besides those, um, besides those aspects in difference between the Japanese and the Korean server, um, are there other issues that you think should be given attention within the Japanese server that a lot of people don't know about?
Um, Not necessarily. I feel like a lot of the issues that would be lesser known in Japanese server are still prevalent on other servers. Um, I'll just give an example from Australia server because that's what I played on for a while, which is there were quite a few win traders at the top of the ladder in Australia, and I feel like that holds true in other servers too. So, even though it may be a lesser known issue to people who aren't at the highest level of play in their region, then it's not necessarily limited to one region. And I think, yeah, I can't really say it's just like just for this region. I think it's quite general.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm just wondering, where do you get your reps in solo queue? Do you go to Japanese server or the Korean server or any other server or maybe even Oceania?
Oh, I play on both the Japanese and Korean server, and yeah, I play on both.
What about in the Oceania server? If you still play there, how does that compare to the other two servers? Yeah, how do they compare to the other two servers?
Well, I think Oceania and Japan is quite similar in terms of their solo queue because their population size is one of the lowest. Both of those servers are. So I would say there's like quite a few similarities between those servers. And the Korean server is just probably a different level because they have so many players going and like they have so many players aspiring to be pro players. So everyone seems to be trying their absolute hardest every game. And yeah, well, naturally, since there's more people, they like the elite of the elite are going through and going up. So you verse like very difficult players every game.
I know that I understand that this next question might put you on the spot for a little bit, but do you have any? Can you think of any, or do you have any sort of adjustments that you can like just offer for the Japanese server to get fixed?
I think the priority is just to garner more interest within the server. I think the population size is one of the easiest fixes that you can do for a server. So I guess just more attention to potentially advertising or like getting the word out there for more young people to play League of Legends.
And how have you what have you thought of the current efforts into garner interest in League of Legends in Japan right now?
Well, I mean, obviously the LJL is doing a great job. They have a really great product. I feel like with their LJL stream, it's really great quality. And other than that, the personalities within Japan are really great too. So I guess the only real change I can make is just more more priority on advertising to the masses. But other than that, I feel like what they're doing now is pretty good in terms of LJL, which I'm pretty sure you're referring to.
Mhm. Mhm. And considering your performance with the teams, how you've managed to make playoffs back in spring and are looking to do the same in the summer, do you think we'll see more people potentially from anywhere outside of Korea to make their way into the LJL?
That honestly, I'm not too sure about. I feel like, well, Korean and Japanese is obviously it's still a different language, but it's similar in terms of grammar um and also it's geographically close. So I feel like Korea is just the easiest option to get talent from in terms of Japan. So I don't expect too many players from regions other than Korea to enter Japan.
Mm-hmm. What about the other way around? Japanese into Korea? I mean, it can happen.
Yeah, well, I mean the top Japanese pros are very they're very good, and I think there's like even a few Korean challenger players, so maybe. But I feel like the Japanese pros are too invested within Japan to like the very top pros of the league are. I don't see a world in which they go to Korea because I feel like what they have now is pretty good.
And it'll hopefully continue to grow the LJL. I mean, we hope, well, obviously you hope, and I hope too, that the LJL can continue to grow in subsequent splits. Hopefully, we'll see a worthy delegation that can represent the LJL well in the upcoming Worlds in China. And
Yeah,
and we'll see. Who knows? Maybe it'll be SoftBank Hawks making their first ever appearance in Worlds. With that
I hope
said,
so.
yeah, of course, of course. Me too, me too. Um, with that said,
Oh, thank you.
that about wraps up all of my questions for today in this interview. We've gone for a pretty long while so far. But
Yeah.
Ian slash Corporal, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. Do you have any shout outs you want to make? Any plugins? You want to shed a light on some other obscure player that nobody knows about?
I I feel like I want to just give a shout out to LJL in general. I think the league has really grown even within the past year that I've been here. Like I can feel the level of the talent rising, and I feel like this year there were more chances given to rookie players, and I think that's really great for the league in general. So players like Kinotsu or Miran, like Kinotsu's RJ's top laner and Milan is CJ's ADC. Like I really love seeing players like that come in and flourish within the league. So, and I'm sorry if I missed another rookie player. I was just giving examples. So yeah, I would like to give a shout out to those two because I feel like the way the trajectory of the LGL will be good when we keep introducing new talent like that. So yeah,
All right. That about wraps up everything. Once again, thank you so much, Ian, for taking the time to talk to me. Thank you so much to SoftBank Hawks for giving me the privilege of doing this interview. Also, special shout out to the manager for making it possible. And I've been Pedro Romero. He has been Ian Corporal Pearse of SoftBank Hawks. And with that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Um, take care, everyone.
thank you for your time.